I know you believe me already. You're not gonna like this. I'm going through things and I'm finding things from my past, which is why I say you're not gonna like this. Because these things are empirical evidence. Empirical evidence, that means you've witnessed it yourself. You know how it works because you've seen it. It seems odd to say that you won't like this because it's the truth, but, well, it's how things go these days. Some debate while I was in Bath, England. Bath? But there's a paper, it says quotes. It says quotes. And it seems like from 1974, it doesn't really apply these days, but the way everything's trying to be great again, well, I guess it applies. This is the 1974 Miller versus California Act. I've talked about this before in the past, couple of years ago probably, but it states it is held that material is obscene if one, an average person applying contemporary community standards. Do you know what contemporary community standards are? I've talked about them in the last year. You go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit just to keep traffic moving. You don't want to hold anybody up. And it's like everybody knows it's against the law, but well, if everybody's doing it, they'll let you get away with it. Contemporary community standards. That was defined to me when I was on jury duty. Prudent, according to contemporary community standards. You don't just let it all go. You have to hold a little bit together. That's what they told us when I did jury duty. Don't ever be afraid to do jury duty. It's a fantastic experience. You can sit there, shut the fuck up, and watch all the maniacs in America on a sample without replacement thrown into one room and just listen to each other. Sampling without replacement. There can be only one. So it says, if an average person applying contemporary community standards finds that the work taken as a whole appeals to the prurient interest. And this is what they're doing in the Miller versus California Act. And so we look at the definition of prurient. You have to pay attention to that too, because they use a lot of law words. Smell that. Just smell it. That. I'm looking at things all over. Originally copyrighted in 1943. But this one was in 1955 by the World Publishing Company. You take a dictionary this old, you're getting closer and closer to being able to read hieroglyphics because they keep changing the way things are said these days. You have to have old dictionaries if you're going to read old books. And if you want old information, you need to have an old dictionary and old books. But prurient, oh my gosh, it's in here somewhere. There's prudent, protozoa, prurient. I could have just quoted it, but I wanted to read it so you could see me saying it. It's defined as an adjective having an eager desire for, or characterized by having an eager desire for, or by lewdness and itching. Prurient. How's that for a definition? Having an eager desire for, or characterized by lewdness, itching, twitchy, richy, some kind of itching. That's prurient. So it's defined. I took it off the bookshelf. Believe it or not, there's stuff on here. If you see something, ask me about it. I've probably read it. I used to have it in a state where everything was in order the way by books that I have read so that I could come on to the next one. And then people keep giving me books, keep giving me books, keep giving me books. I can tell you this, if there's anybody that is the fault of my mentality, it's every single person that said, hey, have you read this? I have things come to me which seem to be right in line with where they need to be, where you can understand what's happening and you can look back at the junk that they're stealing from. I had to take my Saddam Hussein book back inside because it needs to be by the toilet. I need to keep on with that. There's just amazing stuff. So yeah, whatever you get back there, it's right here. It's prurient. That's how they're trying to define pornography, is what it is. You didn't know that the Miller Act in 1974 was talking about pornography, and it's held that material of obscene and an average person applying contemporary community standards finds that the work taken as a whole appeals to the prurient interests of things that make you itch. I saw that movie, The 7-Year Itch, with Marilyn Monroe. And so now they're saying that's the problem, it's making us itch. And two, the work depicts in a patently offensive way sexual conduct, specifically defined by applicable state law. So they've been trying to take it back to the states all this time. If it makes you dirty, it makes you a criminal, depending on your state of mind, of your conscientious objection to self defined by the rules which have been placed upon you. All it takes is confession. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And three, The work in question lacks serious literacy, artistic, political, or scientific value. There. It's that easy to decide what pornography is. And the guy that was standing there, they said, well, what do you... And he said, pornography? What is pornography? He says, I know what it is when I see it. Yeah. Same way as that Mike Johnson was looking at his kid's phone, all the pornography on it. And he said, well, you know, I'm keeping an eye on it. We're checking these things out, seeing what's right and what's wrong. And if it's wrong, they'll know it when they see it. John Stuart Mills, out of On Liberty, says individual liberty may be reasonably restricted to prevent harm to others. It makes sense. It's just kind of too bad nobody follows by any of that. The funny thing is, smell that book. I'm not kidding. It smells like an attic. And people might think an attic smells bad. In my opinion, the smell of an attic is different than the scent of a basement. Basement carries all the reptilian urges, and it's mold and mildew and just, you know, it's slot-like. But if you get up to the attic, that's where the knowledge is. It's all just simply id, ego, superego type of stuff. Conscious, subconscious, unconscious. It's all that stuff. But since we are right here in the P words, and we're getting ready to come into the Handmaid's Tale stuff, right there at the top of the page, there was Pyrrhic when I opened the book, when I wanted to show you what prurient means, that itching feeling, that dirty nastiness. I, of course, came across a Pyrrhic victory, and it's defined as a victory gained at enormous cost or loss from King Pyrrhus of Epirus. That's, I think I talked about this not too long ago because it was in one of the books I was reading, but a Pyrrhic victory, you cannot win. This is what we are sitting here right now acting like somebody has to be right. If everybody is arguing about somebody being right, you cannot win. It would be a Pyrrhic victory. You can't sell your house. You can't even have chickens in the yard because the neighbors will shoot them and say, well, that's not regulated by the city. They will follow the rules as they find them necessary. They will kill everything that you can have to make it through. As much as you fight for them, you will fight and fight and fight, and somebody's always going to screw it up. There will be no victory. The losses are greater than the gains. That's right down to Napoleonic stuff, I think. I don't know. It was in the 33 strategies of war somewhere they talked about it. You wonder why I talk about pornography? Because it's the simplest thing. Nobody should have a problem with pornography as long as nobody's getting hurt. But they want to put us into a place. Other than Barbara Broadcast, I know nothing about pornography for the most part. Only Marilyn Chambers. The little downy soft woman, whatever she did, she was a person before she became a whore, and after she was a whore, I still appreciate the idea that she was a person. You know why I can do that? Because I don't have a daughter. Everybody I know, it turns out, that has a daughter hates whores. Why do they hate whores so aggressively? So they can make their daughters feel bad about being whores when they become one. And they know that their father already hated them. Jesus didn't have a daughter, and he loved whores. But you see, next time around, if they have to choose, it won't be Barabbas that they crucify. It will be Jesus. It will be that poor guy that they choose instead of Jesus. All the while, he used Jesus to make himself. And once that happens and everything's lost, we will come to the point where we are experiencing a Pyrrhic victory. Nobody wins in this situation. And reasoning behind this loss is totally prurient. It's just a mess. It's just lewd. It's itching just to do something. People don't seem to be patient anymore. The only reason I talk about that, Miller Act 1974, where they're talking about pornography, and it's really a load of crap. Somebody was probably sitting in the theater with Hugh Hefner watching Linda Lovelace deep throat him, and they say, "Oh, I feel so dirty," and the only thing keeping me from doing anything about the way I feel dirty is the fact that she didn't choose me. And so now I can accuse everybody of being dirty because I feel dirty and I didn't get my turn. It's always that way. Just like Don Jr. complaining about not being on the Epstein list because Eric and Ivanka got to go sit on Daddy's lap next to Epstein on the airplane as toddlers. Don's jealous, and so he comes up with the 1974 Miller versus California Act. Just, yeah, I know by now you're saying get over it, but I just wanted to talk slowly about this because it all applies. They actually mentioned scientific value in that quote. What do they? Who are they? They are the ones that don't want to be named, that want to tell you what to do. So what do? They talk about scientific values while at the same time attacking